Dave, I'm not trying to be a downer, but they never allow reporters into the tunnel during an emergency.
Well, that's even better. That means we will be the only station with an eyewitness account.
The 1990s were a golden age for television, but they were also a graveyard for creative risks. For every juggernaut like Friends or The X-Files, there were dozens of strange, ambitious shows quietly disappearing after a few confused episodes. Some were too weird, some too honest, and some were simply ahead of their time. Networks didn't know how to market them, critics didn't know how to categorize them, and viewers didn't know whether to laugh or change the channel. Yet somehow many of those same failures found new life decades later. Thanks to reruns, DVDs, and now streaming, the flops of the 90s have become the cult classics of today. So grab your remote, rewind those fuzzy VHS memories, and join me as we revisit 7 TV shows that bombed when they aired, but refused to stay buried. These are the 90s TV flops that became cult classics. Let's get started with Duckman. You probably don't think of USA Network as a home for groundbreaking animation, but in the mid-90s, it aired one of the strangest cartoons ever made, Duckman. The show starred Jason Alexander, yes, George Costanza himself, as a miserable, overworked private detective who also happened to be a duck. Duckman chain-smoked, complained about his kids, and yelled about everything wrong with the world. The animation was jagged, the jokes were filthy, and the social commentary hit harder than anyone expected. Critics didn't know what to make of it. Some called it genius, others said it was an animated nervous breakdown. Audiences were confused, but over time, fans realized how far ahead of its time it really was.
Here they are. I knew I had them. The answer's gotta be in here. Home movies!
Actually, I've been putting off regrouting that bathroom tile too long.
Duckman blended absurd humor with cynicism that predicted the tone of Family Guy, BoJack Horseman, and Rick and Morty years before any of them existed. USA eventually pulled the plug after 4 seasons, but the cult following never stopped quoting its rants about politics, fame, and modern life. It was crude, loud, and weirdly profound. The perfect recipe for a show that had to fail before it could be appreciated. Freaks and Geeks. If any show deserved a second chance, it was Freaks and Geeks. NBC aired it in the fall of 1999, right in the middle of the teen drama boom, but this series felt different. Instead of the glossy world of Dawson's Creek, it gave us the awkward, unfiltered reality of high school in the early 80s. The main character, Lindsay Weir, played by Linda Cardellini, was a straight-A student who started hanging out with a group of lovable slackers while her younger brother Sam and his friends tried to survive freshman year without total humiliation. The show captured adolescence in all its painful glory. Crushes, rejection, uncertainty, and the slow realization that everyone else is just as lost as you are.
Don't you have to get to class too?
Oh, well, I'll survive.
Critics adored it, but NBC had no clue how to promote it. The network shuffled it around the schedule until viewers couldn't find it, then canceled it before the first season was even finished. Years later, when the complete series finally came out on DVD, fans discovered what they had missed. The show became a cult hit almost overnight. The cast went on to define comedy in the 2000s. James Franco, Jason Segel, Seth Rogen, and even producer Judd Apatow built their careers on the same mix of humor and heart that started here. Freaks and Geeks may have been a failure in the ratings, but it became a blueprint for how to make honest, character-driven comedy. Sometimes the best shows just show up a few years early. My So-Called Life. If Freaks and Geeks showed us the chaos of high school, My So-Called Life showed us the emotion underneath it. Starring a young Claire Danes as Angela Chase, the show captured what felt like to be 15, confused, idealistic, and constantly caught between who you are and who you want to be. Angela narrated her thoughts like diary entries, reflecting on her crush on the mysterious Jordan Catalano, played by Jared Leto, and the growing distance between her and her parents. This series was slow, quiet, and achingly real. It tackled topics that most networks were terrified of in the mid-90s: identity, sexuality, peer pressure, and depression. Critics praised it as groundbreaking, but ABC had no idea how to market a teen drama that felt this raw. After 19 episodes, the network canceled it due to low ratings. Then MTV started rerunning it, and everything changed. Teenagers across the country discovered it for the first time, and suddenly Angela Chase became the voice of a generation. Fans wrote letters, launched early internet campaigns, and begged ABC to revive it. That revival never happened, but My So-Called Life lived on as the show that proved teenagers didn't need to be stereotypes. They could be complicated, vulnerable, and real. Alright, before we move on, if you're loving this trip back to the 90s, make sure to hit subscribe and ring that bell. We've got plenty more forgotten series, weird pilots, and underrated gems coming your way every week. Twin Peaks. When Twin Peaks debuted on ABC in 1990, nobody knew what to expect. It started like a small-town murder mystery. Who killed homecoming queen Laura Palmer? But within a few episodes, viewers realized they were watching something entirely different. Created by filmmaker David Lynch, the show mixed dreams, nightmares, soap opera melodrama, and black comedy into a single hypnotic package. For one season, it was a national obsession. Coffee and cherry pie became pop culture icons, and who killed Laura Palmer was the question everyone asked at work. But when Lynch was pressured to reveal the killer halfway through season 2, the ratings collapsed. By the time the show ended, most of America had moved on. The diehard fans, however, never let go. They traded VHS tapes, analyzed cryptic dialogue, and turned Twin Peaks into a religion. Over time, its influence spread everywhere, from The X-Files and Lost to Stranger Things. When Lynch revived the series in 2017, critics hailed it as a masterpiece, proof that the original wasn't a failure at all, but a show made for the future. Back in 1991, it was too weird for network TV. Today, it's the reason weird TV exists. The Adventures of Brisco County Jr. Imagine Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, and a Saturday morning western all mashed together, and you've got The Adventures of Brisco County Jr. Fox launched it in 1993, starring Bruce Campbell as a wisecracking bounty hunter in the 1800s who somehow kept running into futuristic gadgets and mysterious glowing orbs.
Is this real? As real as you. You're in the future talking to me now. Yeah.
It was part western, part sci-fi, and completely ridiculous in the best way possible. Critics appreciated its sense of fun, but the general audience didn't know how to take it. Was it a parody? A drama? A kids show with a budget? Fox's marketing didn't help, and after one season, the network pulled the plug. Still, fans loved Campbell's charm and the show's gleeful mix of genres. It became a favorite among tape collectors and later DVD buyers who discovered its clever storytelling and self-aware humor. Today, Brisco County Jr. is often cited as an influence on Firefly and The Mandalorian. It was one of those rare shows that wasn't afraid to be silly, smart, and sincere all at once. It failed spectacularly, but only because it was doing something no one else had dared to try. NewsRadio. During NBC's must-see TV era, NewsRadio was the underrated gem hiding between giants like Friends and Seinfeld. Set in a chaotic New York AM radio station, the show followed a group of lovable weirdos who were better at driving each other insane than doing their jobs. The cast was stacked. Dave Foley as the calm boss, Maura Tierney as his no-nonsense producer, Stephen Root as the eccentric owner, Joe Rogan as a conspiracy-loving handyman, and the great Phil Hartman as egotistical anchor Bill McNeil. The writing was lightning fast, full of overlapping dialogue and subtle jokes you'd only catch on the second viewing. Critics adored it, but the network's constant time slot changes made it impossible to build a loyal audience.
Hey, Dave, I'm not trying to be a downer, but they never allow reporters into the tunnel during an emergency.
Well, that's even better. That means we will be the only station with an eyewitness account.
Then tragedy struck when Hartman was killed in 1998. The show carried on for one more season, but never recovered. After cancellation, NewsRadio quietly developed a following of people who appreciated its sharp wit and chaotic humor. Watching it now feels like discovering the missing link between Cheers and The Office. It's a perfect example of how a show can be both brilliant and invisible at the same time. The Critic, a show that literally reviewed bad movies and somehow became the most underrated gem of the decade. Created by The Simpsons veterans Al Jean and Mike Rice, it starred John Lovitz as Jay Sherman, a snarky film critic trying to survive in a city obsessed with garbage blockbusters. Each episode was packed with movie parodies, Jurassic Park 2, even Jurassic Year, Rabbi P.I., Home Alone 5, and Jay's deadpan reaction to all of it. It stinks. It was clever, biting, and way too smart for network television. ABC canceled it after 13 episodes. Fox picked it up for one more season, then canceled it again.
The people who gave us Tom Cruise as a vampire now bring us Al Pacino in Scent of a Wolfman.
Most shows would have disappeared completely after that, but The Critic refused to die. Comedy Central reruns built a devoted audience. DVD sales took off, and the early internet adopted Jay Sherman as a kind of sarcastic mascot for movie lovers. In 2000, it even returned briefly as a web series, years before streaming was a thing. Today it feels more relevant than ever. In an entertainment world full of endless sequels and reboots, The Critic's satire lands harder now than it did 30 years ago. It flopped in the 90s, but in hindsight, it might have been the truest reflection of them. When people talk about 90s television, they usually stick to the hits, the sitcoms and dramas that define the decade. But the real soul of the era lives in the shows that didn't fit in, the ones that took big swings and missed. Those misfits changed what television could be, even if nobody noticed at the time. Each of these so-called failures found a second life because someone, somewhere, connected with them. They weren't made for everyone. They were made for the people who saw themselves in the weirdness, honesty, or humor. That's what makes something a cult classic. It's not about ratings, it's about resonance. So the next time you're scrolling through a streaming service and see a show you've never heard of from the 90s, give it a chance. Maybe it's strange, maybe it's messy, maybe it stinks. But that's how all great cult classics start.